Hello, my friends. Jim Gale here, coming to you from the North Woods up in northern Minnesota. And this is a view. There's a little hummingbird. I don't know if you could see that really well, but there's a little hummingbird on this little bird feeder right here in front of me. We are at a cabin here. I'll give you a quick tour. My wife is actually sleeping with my daughter right up there on the loft, so she could probably hear me, but that's okay. It's about time to get up. And this is the cabin up here near Ely, Minnesota. I'm here because we just had a celebration of life event for my mom who passed several months ago. And it was an incredible experience. It's been a very nostalgic trip. During the celebration of life, we had everybody tell stories of my mom, and my mom was quite a lady. In fact, I might get teary eyed if I go too much into it. So I'm just going to briefly share a little bit of why we're here. And then I'm going to get into the answer and the strategy and the tactics to solve all of the world's biggest problems. I don't say that lightly. I mean it. It's actually happening, my friends. And you're part of it, of course, the brave hearts and all of the people around this world who are recognizing that there's something going on, that this situation that we find ourselves in is not just a random set of circumstances. It's not just an accident that things are as bad as they are, right? Everybody in the Braveheart Nation knows that it's a strategy, that it's part of the control grid, that the media, the educational system, the medical system, the military industrial complex, and all of the pillars of our society, the framework of our society that is supposed to be there to help us and to support us. Well, that framework has been corrupted. And so
The
the
question
question
that
that
I've
I've
been
been
asking,
asking,
and
and
I'm
I'm
so
so
excited to
excited to
share this with you. We might have another guest pop in named Andre Norman. So the strategy that I'm going to share with you today, it's going to be very different than most of the shows that I've done here. It's going to be the strategy on how we take back our power and change the world in very relevant detail, right? Of course, it starts with brave hearts. It starts with faith and courage. There's no way that we can ever be free without first recognizing, to some degree at least, what's happening around the world, and then to taking personal action, right? It starts with the awareness that you are a brave heart, that you have faith and courage, the awareness that we are more than this temporary skin suit, this physical body, that we are spirit in a divine experience, right? That's how it starts. Because without faith and courage, without the willingness to step into your true power, well, you'll never experience your true power. So these are the types of things that I've been, well, aware of and now questioning for decades. How do we actually change the world? And I'll start by sharing the Earth Council strategy. And Dr. Wolf and myself and 10 other amazing people with solutions have joined our Council of 12. And they're not just any solutions. These are solutions that are scalable and that have been proven to make a difference in our lives individually as well as the collective. It's time that, well, I'll back up for a sec and share how exciting it is that we are going through the ascension of human consciousness right now. And you all know this already. You feel it. That's why you're a member of Braveheart Nation. is because you know that there's something else going on. And it can be said in many different ways. This is the apocalypse, which simply means lifting the veil or the great reveal. It's the great awakening. It's the age of Aquarius. It's all of these different things spoken from different perspectives happening right now. It's the enlightenment, right? There's many ways to say it, my friends. What we are experiencing right now is a transition. It could even be called an evolution, even though that whole theory has been debunked, right? But the word still applies. An evolution of human consciousness, right? It could be called the singularity, right? I never liked that term before because I thought it meant that I was losing my authenticity, my individuality. No, it doesn't mean that at all. It means that as a collective consciousness, humans are rising up. And when we do, what are we rising up to? Well, we're rising up to be connected again with what I call, now this is just my words, and this might throw some people off. So I want to frame this explanation. Right? I grew up in Minnesota. I grew up a Christian, right? Somebody on the other side of the world who grew up with a different set of belief system structures might use different language, but I don't hate them or think they're wrong because they use different language, right? So I'm going to use the language that I grew up with. And this is important because this is another way of dividing us and conquering us, to say that this flag is right, or this color is right, or this particular guru is right, right? I'm a Christian because I grew up this way and I believe in the teachings. They're beautiful, right? Again, if you grew up with a different belief system, embrace it, love it, take the good out of the narrative that we have been taught growing up, and let's focus on that together, right? We are going through this amazing phase of humanity to be connected again with the mind of God, with the mind of spirit. It actually gets me quite emotional. I was listening to Andre Norman, who's one of our Earth Council members, and I think it was on Instagram or one of these. I'm not much on these type of social media apps. Thanks to Dr. Wolf and thanks to others for helping this message get on social media. Um, he said when confronted with a prison warden, Andre, I guess a little backstory is relevant here. Andre was brought in to a prison as one of the world's leaders in prison reform and conflict resolution. He was brought in because the prison had been locked down for months. I believe it was 5 months at that time, because so many people were dying in the prison because of the gang violence. Andre was a gang leader in prison in his youth. He started realizing that what he was taught by the culture that he was in, the culture of violence, was not working. It was simply not working. He was real good at it. He was real good at being a gang leader and a prison boss from the perspective of a gang leader. He was very successful, and yet he was still behind bars, right? He was still incarcerated. He was still not a free man. And so after being in prison for, I believe, close to a decade, he had the epiphany, I'm going to get out and I'm going to go to Harvard. Now, can you imagine what his other gang members thought when he started saying, I'm going to go to Harvard? Well, if he wasn't such a badass, they probably would have laughed at him. They maybe even would have ridiculed him so bad, they might have slapped him down. They might have even killed him. But at this time, he was the leader. So not many people were going to take a stance against him. They said, okay, they probably laughed inside their minds at first when he declared this from prison with no experience other than criminality and leading a gang, right? that was relevant to Harvard anyway. Well, he got out and he went to Harvard. And this is very relevant, and I will tie it all together by the end of our talk. He, in Harvard, decided that he wanted to make a difference, or even before that, he recognized what wasn't working and said, there's a better way. So Andre got out, he went to Harvard. He has spent the last 25 years as one of the world's leaders in prison reform. And his stories are absolutely fantastic. And so, as one of our Earth Council members, well, first I found out about Andre, and he talked to us about the university that he is starting called Second Chance University. Second chance, because the people that are in his university, for the most part, are behind bars. And they have, like he was, been taught how not to live. And well, this is just entering my mind, so I'm going to share it with you. Another one of our Earth Council members, his name is Theo Fleury. Theo is a hockey legend. He had brought 7 teams to the World Championship and won. 6 of them were Stanley Cup championships, right? He led 6 teams to the Stanley Cup championship as a 5'5" hockey player who had been seriously abused and raped many times as a young athlete with promises of greatness by his coach. He tells this story. So Theo said to me about a year ago, he said, Jim, trauma is the root cause of all human suffering. And systemic government-induced trauma is the most widespread trauma of all. In fact, another little add-on, I was talking yesterday with Larkin Rose, who wrote many books, including What Anarchy Isn't and The Most Dangerous Superstition. And that is our belief in government, our belief in authority, our belief that somebody else has the authorship of our lives, right? Well, when you put all these things together, these awarenesses together, what Theo said about trauma and what Andre Norman said to me not too long ago, or actually he said it in a film, a little short on social media. When he was approached by the prison warden to come and help resolve the conflict at their prison, Andre first showed up and they were going to sell one cell at a time. And Andre said, this is going to take forever. Open up the doors of the prison. Like, I'm talking the inside doors, so the inmates could interact face to face. And the prison warden said, if I open up the doors, they're going to start killing each other again. And Andre said, my God is bigger than their demons. Open up the doors. It gives me the chills, my friends. It brings tears to my eyes. The power of that statement is why Andre is on our Earth Council. The power of what Theo said when he said, Jim, trauma is the root cause of all human suffering. That's why Theo is on the Earth Council. And you already know Dr. Wolf. He has been ridiculed and attacked for decades simply for bringing products that work to our world. Well, when I was listening to some of Andre's tapes, he said, my God is bigger than their demons. And then he went in and he started talking to the inmates about solutions. The university, Second Chance University, that Andre is now the CEO and founder of, is one of the largest universities in the world. And it's incredibly relevant because the prison system is one of the biggest liabilities next to our industrial medical complex, our industrial military complex, our industrial education complex, and our industrial media complex, right? These are the pillars of enslavement of our world. So how do we change them? Well, guess what, my friends? I've got good news for you. We have the solution to all of it. And it's so embarrassingly simple that it will elude some people. It will miss some people. Please feel free to share this message, this video with your friends and family and people who matter, because we're bringing it. We're bringing the solution to the industrial military complex, the prison military complex, the education complex. We're bringing all of the solutions right here, right now. And you're hearing about it in clarity, in detail on this show. So please consider sharing this inspiring message. How are we doing this? Well, let's get into tactics. Let's get into the real details of how we're doing this. So we're teaming up with Andre. Right now, he has his little, they're like little screens, and they're internet connected devices, right? Of course, in the prisons, they regulate the connections and all that stuff. But Andre is in charge of what these inmates see and hear and what they learn. And so we are bringing permaculture and many other teachings to 650,000 inmates, turning one of the biggest liabilities in our world into an asset, right? I'm using those terms to get through to the minds of people who see it in different ways, right? To affect the hearts and the minds of those who need the help the most suffering and misguided among us. And when we transition this energetic system, this system that has caused destruction and harm, right? And I just learned the other day that I believe this is true, and please double check this. 60% of those in prison for years and decades are in prison for non-violent crimes. Crimes of maybe they were trading cannabis for fiat currency or something else. Crimes that hurt nobody, at least on their face value. And they were in prison for these crimes simply because it was the only way that they were aware of in their culture, in their communities, in their ghettos, in their hoods, to make some money and to be respected, right? We, the government, not we, I'm going to retract that sentence, we. This is a government-led psyop to create these ghettos. How do we fix this? Well, I'll give you a fact. This is not a hypothetical solution, and you all could look this up yourself. Go online if you want and say, what are the results of gardening and growing projects in prisons? And by the way, this doesn't just work with gardening. It works with animal husbandry. It works with making leather goods, right? It works with using your hands and doing crafts. But I'm going to focus, because it's my passion, on food forests everywhere, on abundance through growing your way into abundance in your yards, your landscapes. When inmates participated in these gardening programs, the recidivism rates go down by more than 60%. In some studies, more than 70%. Recidivism is reincarceration. When you get out of prison and you don't know what to do in your life, so you go back to the same thing you've always done. You go out, can you imagine? You leave prison, And where do you go? You probably go home to live with mom or a good friend. Now, this is the same mom that loves you, and she is in the same place probably, and she is in the same neighborhood with the same friends. What are you likely going to do if you go into the exact same environment that you just left? Well, you're likely, I'm wondering if, oh, there's Andre. Oh my gosh, Andre's here. Sorry, buddy, I had only my big face on the camera. So you're going to go into the same situation. We are helping to show these folks who need help to go how to find a better way. So now I'm going to introduce Andre Norman, who is the CEO and founder of Second Chance University. Andre, thank you for coming in. Can you share with our audience how you got here and what the strategy is?
Well, definitely thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here. And the way I got here is just there's a need in the world. It's really basic. There's a need in the world for people who want to be helpful. We can all care. We can all be intentional. We can all be thoughtful. We can all be prayerful. There's a need in the world for people who want to be intentional and show up. It was time to show up in a way where we can be helpful to not just people who look like us or live near us, but the people in the situations that are going to help this world stay focused and go forward. I love politics. I love sports. I love all those things. But people are the root of everything. And if we're not taking care of our people, we're not taking care of our earth, then all the other things don't really matter as much. So for me, having grown up in the inner city, witnessed domestic violence, witnessed gang violence, witnessed poverty, witnessed bad schools, a school to prison pipeline. I was on the bus and I went from school to prison. And when I got to prison, it was prison for people who don't know. It's not just a place we send people who committed crimes. Prison is a place we send people who quit on life. Prison is filled of people who didn't finish school, who didn't finish football camp, who didn't finish chess club, who didn't finish band, who didn't finish their therapy, so they went out on drugs. Prison is a huge, giant complex filled of quitters. And why do people quit? Multitudes of reasons. They don't feel safe. They don't feel supported. I'm not excusing any crime committed by any person. I'm just saying, having been there for 14 years, one of the root causes of people being there is they didn't feel like they could fit in someplace else. So they went where they thought they could fit in, and it wasn't a good scenario, and they did bad things. I wish I could tell you, I grew up in the hood and nobody loved me, and my dad was a bastard. Teachers try to help me. Pastors try to help me. Church people try to help me. People tried to help me. I was incapable of receiving the help because of my trauma. I committed my own crimes. People tried to help me. I was incapable of receiving the help due to the fact that I was stuck in my trauma. And it wasn't until 6 years into prison that I started doing trauma work. I started working with therapists and counselors, and I was able to heal my trauma. Then I was able to change the direction of my life and come home. I was able to get a goal. I never had a real goal before. My real goal was all criminality and negative stuff because that's where my heart was. And when I was able to heal my heart and heal my place inside, I could get a goal that made sense. And it was to go home and go to Harvard University. And people thought I was crazy. I'm like, I have the potential. I have a goal. Why can't I do it? And I taught myself how to read. I taught myself the law. I did all the things I needed to do. And I sit here a Harvard fellow from the law school. And I say to people, it's not what you can't do, it's what you want to do and what you're willing to do. The discipline is a part that I was missing. Being able to show up and have support. I had the support. And Father Martin, Deacon John, you know what I'm saying, Natan Schaefer, Pat Dempsey. I can tell you the people who helped me and held me accountable. Sister Ruth, Sister Kathleen, Mark Thomas, Gordon Haas, the people who held me accountable and walked me through. And I came home and I've done 25 years of helping people because I never forgot the people who showed up for me And the feeling it gave me, what I didn't know, it was a greater feeling it gave them. So now being the helper is just, I guess it is just the right place to be. And we collectively, I just did a tour. I went from Paris to Venice to Rome to Ethiopia to Thailand to Philippines to Korea, and I'm seeing people in trauma. I wasn't going to the nice statues and the cool bridges. I'm going to the inner cities. I'm going to the underdeserved. I'm seeing people eat out of trash cans every single day. People live on the streets every single day. And they're like, that's a long way to go see poor people. We got them right here. We're all the same. There's only one set of people in the world, and we all need to be helped and pushed forward. So the goal of the Earth Council, the goal of Andre Norman, the goal of our entire team is to take our talents, come together, argue, fight, but come up with a solution to help people, to take our talents, come together, and just find a way that if we can get along, we can help the world get along. And we have different people, different strengths to do different things, but the goal and the heart is the same. We want to heal something and make it better. So because I was doesn't mean I can't be. And that's our motto. We're here to win.
It's so exciting. And I apologize. How long have you been on the call? Because all I could see was my picture. Have you been waiting for a bit?
It's all right. I mean, listen, life happens.
Good deal.
I'm not a tech person.
Me
I'm
neither.
patient. I'm a patient person, and we're here.
I love it. So tell us, how did you get this idea for Second Chance University?
The idea for Second Chance University, it came to me literally. I've done a lot of programs. I've helped people with drug addiction. I've helped people in prison. I've helped people coming home from prison. I've helped people. I mean, you name it. I've helped people, and there's always these one-off programs. Then I sat down. I said, okay, what is a vehicle that can be helpful and that people can wrap their arms around? Because everybody thinks Andre. I don't want it to be Andre. I wanted to build an entity where people can actually feel some pride, because we need to be educated. Education is key. And we need to be someplace where we can feel like we fit in. And so Second Chance University, I can't say today, but I just been like, okay, how do we build this thing? Because I build a drug program, or I build a training program for corporations, or I build a prison program, or I build a reentry program. And I'm like, I worked at London Business School. I worked at Harvard Law School. I worked at MIT. I can name 30 colleges. Then I remember at London Business School, we had a thing called the Executive Education Department. But we didn't teach any students. We did all corporate training. That's it. Deutsche Bank, Denon Foods, Lens Construction, British Petroleum. We did all their training. So I'm at the Executive Education Department at London Business School for years. Since 2001, I've been there. And we only teach businesses. But then they have other programs. And I just said, I can't tell you the day, but it just came together. I said, everything fits under university. When I stopped thinking like a dictionary, and I started thinking about solutions. See, the dictionary says I can't own a university. Only universities own universities, right? The dictionary says Andre can't own a university. That doesn't make sense. So I was doing logical thinking, trying to create a huge solution to a huge problem. When I got out of my own way and said, what is needed? If we could transform, we always say, if we can transform prison into a college setting, we pay $50,000 to hold somebody in prison. It costs $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 to go to college. We always say, turn prisons into colleges. Well, why not? So I've heard that 1,000 times. We pay more to incarcerate than we do to educate. So I'm like, it was a combination of just 57 years of being on the planet and 25 years of being in the mud that somebody said, we can make bricks out of this stuff.
You know, the other day when we were on the call, you were in the jail, and there was a group of maybe 15 to 20 women, incarcerated women behind you. And when we were talking to those women, and I asked, do any of you want to learn about raising animals and animal husbandry? they all went, yeah. Like they're looking for this, they're searching for this. And it's so the passion that they expressed was we got tears in our eyes. Joel Stout and I start crying.
All right. It's time we stop looking at the problem as a problem and we start saying, instead of saying what's wrong with them, why are they here, it's where can we get them and what can they be. We're looking at, oh my God, this is prison. We come in with the attitude. I was coming with the attitude of, oh man, I can't fix the prison, but I can help somebody feel better. Nah, let's take over the prison and remodel it. So we can't get rid of prisons because we haven't gotten rid of crime. So we need prisons in that context, but we can manage the prisons. We can't get rid of food because we need food, but let's take over the farms. So if these companies want to spray pesticides, let's create the option versus trying to eliminate the opposition. I don't want to eliminate anybody. I mean, so I don't want to eliminate, even though I'm not for everybody, I don't want to eliminate anybody. But let's create a healthy choice. Let's create a healthy option, and let's create a healthy solution. So the women inside, they're hungry. They want someone to come and say, this is the way. But what they're getting now is go to church. What they're getting now is learn to cook. What they're getting now is take this anger management program, which are cool, but it's not the solution to their real problem. Where does my life go? Don't put me on a hamster wheel and say that I'm better. Put me in the fields, put me in life, and then let me be better. So I've lived a hamster. My brother came with me for the weekend. Born and raised in Boston, project guy, gang guy, won't leave the city, won't leave the block. I just took him to Mexico. I took him to California. I took him to Beverly Hills. I took him on a 4-day world tour. He came back and said, bro, I didn't know. Wow. We didn't do anything fantastic. I got him on a plane, gave him some Tylenol PM, and got him on a plane. And I just took him some places, and he said, bro, I didn't know. You know how many people are living in the inner city who've never left the city? If you've never left the city, then you don't know what the world is doing. You only know what it says on Instagram and TikTok. When we don't even control TikTok. Nothing against the Chinese, but the Chinese control TikTok.
Yeah.
You're getting your news from a foreign country.
Yeah, and if you look up who owns the biggest news stations, right, it's all the same entity. It's very interesting. Right. So you just mentioned the inner city. So when these inmates are now growing some of their own food in the prison system while learning the principles of how to work with nature, how to create life. And it's also one of the most relevant and important business models in the world right now, because our food supply chain is in big trouble. It's been poisoned. So now when these inmates get out, they will have a skill to create their own sustenance and to create sustenance and food security for other people. Right. So now imagine they go right back because when inmates get out, I imagine they go home. They go back to where they grew up, right?
Right. 100%.
Right. So now imagine these inmates organizing with our help, right? With everybody's help, everybody listening to this call, when they go back to their city parks and there's churches and there's schools. And now they create edible regenerative systems, food, water, energy systems that are clean. And then these communities go from food deserts, right, where people are eating Church's Chicken and 7-Eleven as their primary food source. Now they're creating these food systems. We lift up the most suffering among us. And it is a transformation that just goes everywhere.
I agree, and it's true. People need the real plan for sustainability of life. And when we teach them how to take care of animals, how to grow their own food, when you learn how to grow food, you learn how to live. Because you're working with the earth. See, we go all the way back. Let's go back to the beginning. Adam and Eve. That's the furthest we can go back as people, unless you're a scientist, want to do the Big Bang. Adam and Eve were on the planet. And where did they live? In the Garden of Eden. And what were they? They were naked. So this is not a religious lesson. This is a science lesson. So you had two naked people living in a garden 24 hours a day. So how did they sleep? On the ground. There was no houses. So you used to sleep your naked body to the ground. Why? Because the ground has nutrients and they would touch your body and it would speak to your body and it would communicate. And then along the way, they decided to eat an apple. Then they started wearing clothes and they made shoes. Then they made houses. They made all, and then we made roads. Everything between us and the land, the cement outside of my house, the floor that I'm standing on, is between me and the earth. The earth was the original feeder of people. We laid on the earth and the earth would speak to us. We laid under the stars and the sun and the moon would speak to us or touch us. We've created barriers between us and the earth. So now that we don't respect it as much because we don't need it as much, we want to go back to, we don't want anybody naked running around the country, but there was something in why God put two people naked in a garden and said, you can live here and be fine. I'm not talking about the religious part. I'm talking about the human part. They lived and they had to eat the food that was there and they slept on the ground. There's something about touching the earth that is human, that is original, that is basic. We need the earth. It's us. So we can go, I literally go out my backyard once or twice a day. I just put my feet in the grit and on the ground. I let whatever messaging is supposed to come from the earth that God was giving to Adam and Eve. I'm not reading the book. I'm not listening to the hymns. I'm going in the backyard. I put my feet to the dirt and I just sit there for like a half hour to an hour. And whatever messaging needs to be in my body is in there. And I don't know if it's doing any good or not, but I said, listen, I read the Bible. I'm not worried about which way to walk or which way to pray. I'm going back to putting my feet to the ground. My body would touch the ground because that's the way it was designed. And before all the splits in the church and all the different realms, I'm going back to basics. The earth is our catalyst. And let's go back to what is our catalyst. It provides the water, it provides everything. So I'm touching once or twice a day for 30 to 40 minutes, my feet to the ground. And it bothers me when I'm on the road and I can't do it. Ever see, it's just, people go to the beach, they get happy. They're in the sand, they're in the water. Who goes to the beach depressed?
Right?
Kids hit
Listen,
the water.
it's amazing. So I'm going to expand on what you're saying just a little bit. Like this idea of the Garden of Eden. What is that idea? It's an idea where you walk outside or you live outside, but let's say you still live in your house. You walk outside and there's abundance everywhere, right? This is something that a lot of people have been programmed to believe cannot happen or isn't true or it's a utopic fantasy. Well, that's all BS. That's all belief systems and bad science. The truth of the matter is, where I live in Florida, and by the way, it's the same here in northern Minnesota, there's abundance everywhere. I grabbed my fishing pole and I walked to the little trail down to the lake, and I caught enough fish in a couple of hours to feed my family for the whole day, incredibly nutrient dense food. Right? I walk outside my house in Florida and there's 250 different types of edible perennial plants that I don't have to manage. Nature or God, whatever you want to call this incredible source of abundance, right? Nature is the foundation of all of our wealth, right? So when we design these systems in, and people think, oh, we don't have the resources to do that, that is such a bunch of BS, right? And I'll just give one stat real quick. In the Florida state budget is over $100 billion, right? 5% of that budget over 4 years is $20 billion. $20 billion equals 20,000 $1 million food forest installations in the state of Florida in 4 years. That's every city park. That's every school. That's every prison. That's every county land. That's 300 food forests per county in the state of Florida. What does that mean? That means everybody who wants to eat can walk outside and eat a healthy meal at no cost.
The thing that I would say to that in expanding is you're right. The money is there, but I've watched for years groups of people build wells, but people didn't have access to water around the world. We're all familiar with the give money to the well for Africa, money to the well in Haiti, money to the well in India, money to the well in whatever part of the world we're talking about. We build water wells and we donate to that. Here's 50 cents a day, here's $1 a day, here's $100 or whatever it is. We need to take the premise of building water wells and apply it to building sustainable food, because it's a mindset that people have. When you say, well, we want to make these endless gardens, people don't get the concept. There's a food desert and we need a well, but we need a food well. And with Americans, it comes down to the marketing, because we've been marketed it to since Let Go of My Ego and everything else. So if it's not marketed right, people won't ingest it. So if we framed the building of these places like the same way we've been framed building wells around the world, I think people will receive it better. It's not just what's sensible or logical, is what we have to compete against Madison Ave in the marketing. If you're not competing against Madison Ave, you're gonna lose your kids, you're gonna lose your wife, you're gonna lose your husband, you're gonna lose everything. Marketing tells you can go on TV, they have billions of dollars of marketing coming at you. You pick up your Instagram, it's billions of dollars of marketing and advertising. It's not just happen chance. So we have to get in the space of marketing for our market share.
Yeah, we do. And then the question that we ask is, how do we do that? Well, the answer is we demonstrate it. We don't just talk about it. We don't just, scream from the rooftops, but we actually turn our spaces. And that's what we've been doing now with Food Forest Abundance. And now that's what the Earth Council is doing, is we're coming together following Dr. Martin Luther King's advice. Those who love peace must learn to organize as effectively as those who love war. And we're creating these systems all over the place where people can come and see and feel and experience and taste and touch the sensory explosion of a food forest. It's like a symphony of life. And 100% of people that had visited our food forest at Galt's Landing have left inspired, and many of them start crying, because for the first time ever, they are aware that there's a solution to all of it.
There's always been a solution. We've been just on the wrong. We've been chasing business. We've been chasing education. We've been chasing whatever fame or fortune we thought was most important. But you come to a place in a space in life when you realize we're leaving here. And how are we leaving what we were given? And I could say a few years ago, I was making people better, but I wasn't making the earth better. And you have to take care of the core.
Yes, it's one core, right? Earth care and people care. Reinvesting our surplus, our extra energy into earth care and people care.
100%.
There's no reason not to do this. Yet a lot of people aren't doing this simply because they're not aware that doing this is the best thing for us as individuals, families, communities, and world.
Yes, I'm ready. And listen, for all the listeners, like, well, this sounds really deep and this sounds really interesting, but there's no room for me. I don't know about that stuff. Well, if I can go from the basement of a prison, serving 105 years, to working at the White House, to working at London Business School, to working at Harvard Law School, to traveling to over 25 countries, if I can, from illiteracy and lack, become a world leader and an influencer, and I did it by just listening. I followed first, and then I led second. I followed first, and people taught me and showed me how to, and then I learned how to lead. So you might have, I don't know how to lead that. You don't, we know you don't know how to lead it. But what you can do is follow first, and we will show you and teach you, and then you can lead. You have to walk before you run. Let us show you how to walk. Crawling, you already know how to do. Let me show you how to walk, and then we're going to show you the proper shoes to wear, and we're going to let you go. Then the goal is not to create minions. The goal is to create leaders. And we need leaders in every community, on every street. But I want to tell you, future leaders in this space, you have to walk alongside somebody so you can learn what it is. Doctors teach doctors, police teach police, lawyers teach lawyers, pilots teach pilots, earth savers teach earth savers. It's not about you caring, it's about you knowing how to care the proper way. And that's why we're here, not to be the almighty. We're here to be the people, the mentors that walk alongside you. So then you can go back to your community in Florida or Arkansas or Montana, wherever you are, because every city's different. And we need you and your nuance for your city to understand how to. And that's what we're here for. So don't say, well, that's too big. I can't get my arms around it. Yes, you can. Walk with us first, and then you can go home and you can walk with your neighbors.
Man, that's so well said, brother. One seed at a time, right? Take one step and feel how it feels. And this is where it gets so exciting, because once you're on this path, it feels good. It's invigorating. It's enlivening. And when you step off the path, and I step off the path once in a while, and then I feel not as good. And then I step back on the path because it feels better. Right? It's such a wonderful path to be on. And this is also very practical in the world right now. The world systems, the supply chains are in big trouble. So what's going to get us through is exactly what Andre just said, is you as individuals taking those steps, right? Learning and then leading and then creating a community of starting with yourself and then your family, and then start reaching out to your broader community. Start knocking on the neighbors' doors and saying, hey, would you like some extra tomatoes? I've got an extra. I got a whole bunch extra in the backyard, right? You start sharing that extra abundance. And then every tomato has 100 seeds in it that can produce an infinite amount of tomatoes.
We have the solution. We don't have the mindset. We have the solutions. We don't have people who feel comfortable operating as leaders. And again, you start talking about world supply chains. I'm thinking big boats. I'm thinking I can't buy no big giant shipping company. It's too much for me. I'm just a poor kid from Atlanta. No, we don't need you to take over the world. We need you to take over your street. First, your backyard. First, take over your backyard. Then after your backyard, help your neighbor take over their backyard. This isn't a colossal growth out. We're going to take over the world. No. If every community just works with this community, it changes the dynamic. That's it. That's all. We don't need you to leave your house and rush off to LA, or leave your house and rush off to Miami, or rush to New York or St. Louis or Chicago. This isn't, I'm going to solve crime or make the school system better. This is just, if we can just start on one page saying we're just going to take care of the earth and eat better, then that will lead to the next iteration of what's coming next. So we say, okay, we're going to create this thing, and then the next thing will come from it. So if you're looking for the end solution, you won't see it because it's a step at a time. You have to do the first step. Then the first step is, let's get people on one mindset that we can actually grow food that'll be healthy for us. Then that will lead us to, okay, we're growing food and we're learning how to be healthy. Well, if you learn how to grow food and take care of your own body and take care of the earth, that's going to create a change in you by itself. I can't tell you how that's going to look in each person, but I guarantee it'll be positive. You can't grow food from the ground and make your life better and make your soul better and not be the same. You can't. You have to change. And that change has to be for positive, because it's a positive input, positive output. And then that person is now in a mind frame where he can create. When I was in prison, they said, Dre, you're just a gang member. You attack people. And I was. Then when I got put into a positive mindset, I went to therapy, I went to counseling. I couldn't come out of that worse. I was always worse as I could be. I came out of that better. When I got healed myself, then the next iteration said, oh, I can go to Harvard University. People ask me all the time, how did you come up with the idea of going to Harvard as a gang member? I said, I wasn't a gang member anymore. I'd already changed. I went to the next step of growth. And in the next step of growth, I could see my future. I couldn't see my future with a knife in my hand. I couldn't see my future selling drugs on the yard. But once I got rid of the drugs and rid of the knives, and I'm in therapy and I'm in a space, then I can see the next step. Then I could execute on the next step. So it's not this big hocus pocus thing, but you have to take the first step to get to the last step.
Lee, this is so exciting. I'm just coming out of my skin with excitement right now because the things you're saying now, and then what you said earlier, right? This is the ultimate stack of functions, right? This is grounding when you're gardening, when you're out. And by the way, I'm not even a gardener. I'm a food forest designer and steward, right? What does that mean? What is a food forest? Well, let's just take an apple tree, right? Let's say you walk outside and you've got three different types of apple trees or pear trees or plum trees growing in your backyard. And for 3 months a year, they provide you so much food that you're giving apples away to all your friends and neighbors, right? These are apples growing with love. But here's where grounding comes in, because now you're walking outside and you're in. Okay, yeah, sounds good, brother. You're walking in. In fact, Drake, if you're listening, could you let us know when the time is up? I can't see the clock on this, so but now you walk outside and you're healing, you're grounding, and you're observing and interacting, right? You're putting maybe the iPhone down for a minute and you're back into the natural world, the real world. And then what about the money? Right? People say, I don't have the money to grow my own food. I just can barely feed myself, right? Well, here's what you could do. If you got $20 and you're going to go to the store and you're going to buy either a fast food meal, right? Or you're going to go to an organic place and you're going to find some really healthy food with seeds in it. You can literally take that $20. You can buy good food. You can eat the food. You can take the seeds out and you can go on YouTube or the Earth Council platform, which will be launched here in 2 months. And you can learn how to put those seeds in the ground. You do not need extra money to do this. You just need the willingness and you need to take the first step, like Andre said.
So many people have one or two things: never experienced winning. And this is a group that's really bigger than the people who've won. The people who've never experienced winning because they never took the first step. The first step was too hard. It was too big. It doesn't matter. It'll never work. It's not me. It won't. I don't matter. They relegate themselves to the bench and to the stands. If you want to feel the whole fullness of winning, you have to take the first step and be willing to lose. You can't lose in this, but you have to be willing to lose. You know what I'm saying? Lose, people thinking, oh, they're gonna talk about you. I said I want to go to Harvard. People talked about me. I said I wanted to help people. People talked about me. I said I wanted to go to Thailand and help poor people. Like, why? We got poor people right here. And people laughed. You're not going to be the favorite son until you get to the winner line. So don't worry about praise and acclamations. Just worry about, ask yourself, is building a food forest the right thing? Is it a good thing? I'm saying back in my oh man, I just lost it. The
I'll
group.
jump in.
No, there's a group
Yeah.
that helps people and have like, is it true? Does it help people? You know what I'm saying? And it's like,
Yeah.
ask yourself the baseline. Forget about what the world says. Ask yourself, if I build this little forest thing in my backyard, is it a good thing for the earth? And you answer yourself, is this good for my neighbors? Answer for yourself. Is it good for my family, kids, whoever? Is it good for my, and then let that be your guide. Stop listening to TikTok and the Channel 5 News and the Channel 7 and the Channel 55 and the ABC Good Mornings. And I have nothing against any of them, but you are your own best newscaster. You have a farm in your backyard. You're growing 20 tomatoes, 100 cucumbers. Ask yourself, does growing this help the planet? I think the answer is going to be yes. Giving this to my neighbors, is this going to help them? It's going to foster relationships and be healthy. Yes. Be your own. We don't need to send you a pamphlet on why you should do this. Ask yourself if doing this improves the world, the earth, my neighborhood, my relationships, my health. These are baseline fundamental questions. You don't need any third party to help you figure out. You don't need to do a survey or a poll to find out, does eating fresh tomatoes make me better? The giving fresh cucumbers to my neighbors make them better. This is really basic stuff. Well, let's not complicate it with the trying to make you buy a Big Mac. You know what I'm saying? It's not complicated. It's ask yourself. You are your own best friend. Or have I been told I used to be my own worst enemy?
Yeah.
When I didn't ask
Boom.
fundamental questions, I let other people give them to me, then I used to run into problems. So the Earth Council is here to walk with you, to mentor you, and just to show you how to be the best version of you can be, so we can make the best version of this world that it can be. So I appreciate you for having me, and I look forward to collaborating and going forward.
I love it. And where can people find you on social media and so on?
My right now, AndreNorman.com is my website. On LinkedIn, it's Andre Norman. On Instagram, it's Andre Norman. Shortly, the Second Chance University website is almost done. But for right now, everything is just AndreNorman.com or Andre Norman on any social media platform, from LinkedIn to TikTok to YouTube. It's all Andre Norman.
I love it. So
And
if
if you're in
anybody
prison,
listening,
and if you're in prison and you're on one of these, this is a prison tablet. If you're in prison, you wouldn't be watching this, but if you were, Hope Media. If you have anybody that you notice incarcerated, they have tablets in jail, tell them there's a free app on here. It's called Hope Media, because we're bringing back hope.
man, that is so exciting. Thank you so much for everything you're doing. I'm so excited that we're collaborating on this. So my friends, everybody listening, go to Hope Media and go to Andre Norman, and then be prepared to, well, start planting seeds. And then as the Earth Council details come, well, we'd like you to join us. This is how we change the world together.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, be great.
Thanks, brother. Wow, that was a treat, my friends. Well, I'm going to get up. My family's getting ready to head back to St. Paul, Minnesota, where we're going to take off tomorrow and head back to Florida. And it's just been so wonderful. So Andre's one of the Earth Council members. We have 10 more, and all of us are focused on one thing. We must, instead of fighting the existing reality, the existing model, we must build a new model that makes this current model obsolete. We are bringing to the world with you together a new economy, an economy of service and of sharing and of lifting each other up, as opposed to economy of control and fear and hoarding. It's time, my friends. We're in it, and it's time to rise above it and demonstrate the solutions. Love, and have a great day.